Hello, and welcome to the Designing Impactful Innovation podcast. I'm Clara, your host. Today, Arvind Krishnan of Lifecycle Insights will be talking about the trends and challenges of product lifecycle management, or PLM, with Stéphane Declée, CEO of ENOVIA. Handing the mic over to you, Arvind.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to this podcast. Stéphane, I know you're a very busy person. I appreciate you taking the time for our chat today, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Arvind. It's really a pleasure. Actually, I love this topic, so it's a pleasure to be with you on all the people listening to us, of course.
First of all, Stéphane, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Dassault Systems?
Of course, I will be very brief. So as you said, my name is Stéphane Declée. I am right now the CEO of the ENOVIA brand in Dassault Systems, which focus globally on our platform, collaboration, and of course, all our PLM services and processes. Actually, I joined Dassault Systems a long time ago, back in 1991. It was my first job, starting my professional life, started in R&D, where I stood for several years until I actually took the responsibility of the strategy for Dassault Systems. This was back in the 1999 timeframe. I moved to the US to take over the ENOVIA R&D organization at that time. I spent 7 years in the US, great time with the family, kids, everybody, before moving back to France, moving to the industry, the newly created industry organization at that time. And finally, in 2016, as I said, I took over the ENOVIA CEO position, really driving and in charge of strategy, of course, driving the portfolio evolution and the business, engaging with clients and supporting our global direct and indirect sales teams.
Stéphane, that was a fantastic career. So you've been in development, you've been in strategy, you've been in charge now of the whole portfolio. So you've seen it all, right? And I think there will be no better person to talk about the PLM strategy of Dassault Systems with us. So let us start straight away with the topic that is extremely dear to you, product lifecycle management. I'm sure you're seeing some new trends with your customers, especially when it comes to using the PLM solutions. Are you actually seeing your customers' expectation shifting when it comes to PLM solution, considering that we are living in a new world since the time you joined Dassault Systems?
And I think it's a very interesting question. Actually, and for the one who don't know or maybe don't remember or were not there at that time, so globally, roughly PLM was somehow the term was invented, I think back actually in 1999. At the same time, actually, I joined, I moved to this strategy position. Actually, this term, interestingly enough, has been invented actually by Dassault Systems and IBM at that time. And we have been promoting and educating. And there was a big world tour with our CEO and IBM executive to tell about the PLM story. But indeed, as you said, Arvind, there has been many changes, especially external changes that had significant impact on the expectation and the evolution of PLM as a solution. So I think there are two main kind of, I would say, topics or impacts or influence. One is linked to the market itself. So we are, and we have been also discussing that a lot in the last years already in Dassault Systems. This transition from what we say product to experience, which is really about taken into account really the full aspect of the product in use during the product creation process and time. Of course, including the interaction with the client, but also all the services and even the business model associated to the business you are bringing or you are building with those products. But the other aspect also is, but it's also linked to that, is the evolution of the client's needs. Specialized products and actually now sustainability, which is really also becoming a user-consumer mandate more than ever. But then there's also business changes, globalization, and now we are also challenging this model, but we are more and more on many clients need to work with distributed remote workforce, which actually drive strong requirements on PLM to be available anytime, anywhere, and also increased requirements for traceability, accountability, as you will get more people engaged, and potentially people outside of your organization. Product complexity, moving from product to experience. One part of it actually is to have more and more complex products, mixing mechanical systems or parts assemblies, but also mechatronics, so electronics, software, and you have to make it all work together. You have to go faster in delivering them. So actually complexity is driving complexity in the processes on how you manage your organization, but also complexity in how to guarantee quality for those products, which is quality. I see quality as really being also a growing concern with many clients. And finally, we see also that there is a need to really connect the dots across organizations. I mean, for a long time, PLM was the tool for engineering, eventually expanding a little bit to manufacturing, of course, engineering, but also manufacturing execution, production. But we see now more organizations, even strategy, finance, marketing, procurement. I think we are going to come back on this later, which are also need to be collected, not only to consume data, but also to bring back their own perspective and concern requirements to make sure that they are taken into account upfront in the process. So this is I think a big an important point. On last but not least, I mentioned it briefly before, sustainability is really driving also a big change in both the requirements for PLM, but more globally, engineering processes, and also what the engineers need to take into account when designing, defining the next generation market-leading products that they have to deliver.
Well, Stéphane, thank you for a little bit of history. Actually, I had no idea that Dassault Systems and IBM came up with the product lifecycle. So that's a nice trivia question 30 years later, right? And, it's also interesting. I noticed that you mentioned the word sustainability at least 3 times in your answer. So I'm almost sure that people's expectations when it comes to sustainability have changed quite a bit. And I'm very happy to hear from you that Dassault Systems is actually taking this very seriously and is able to empower organizations to actually transform themselves using this. Now, let me come to a term that initially was a little cryptic to me. I know Dassault Systems uses the term innovation platform rather than PLM, right? Could you tell me why you decided to go with this name? What is an innovation platform? And are there differences from the PLM that the entire industry so far knows about?
I think it's a good question, Anali. I can acknowledge that sometimes in Dassault Systèmes we are launching on the market some cryptic words or concepts. I can acknowledge this for sure. So there are several things here that I think are important. If you take, and I know that not yet all businesses have adopted PLM, but still a lot of them did already. And for me, it's adopted what I'm calling the third generation of PLM, where really the main mission, the main reason for adopting was really to try to take control over the data that we are proliferating in the product development engineering organization, to secure them, to put them in configuration, version control, to be able to follow their evolution, to make sure that people were working on the latest version of specific artifacts, data. And that's been used also, of course, to connect, to create some automation in connecting engineering to production, so to manufacturing. But it was really more about kind of back-end system. And actually, when you look at many clients, actually, PLM is not the tool of use of people. It has been a big topic for IT organization. Actually, some clients have created dedicated team really that were responsible to take engineering data and put them in the right place under configuration. And so it was really more a back-end system. And what I think is really critical in this transformation that we were discussing before, in terms of speed, complexity, engaging more people across multiple organizations, is actually to make PLM become a system for people. When we speak about innovation platform, this is really what we meant, is that it has to become a system for people. It has to become the system where people go before they want to go, not only before they need to go, And eventually, and this is my dream, even if there are still some work to do there, I know, but to make it something that really create value on is almost fun to use by people. That could be the ultimate dream. And actually, collaboration is highly correlated to innovation.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I think that there is, we are not the only one to say that. We know that for many businesses, actually, innovation on bringing new competitive, disruptive product to market is actually not only the reason for business, but also the condition for surviving. So at a speed which is always accelerating, with, as we said, many on increasing constraints that they have to deal with. And so this drive for multidisciplinary, multi-location, continents, and multi-dimension kind of problems to solve is really bringing the need for this global collaboration, making sure that everybody is able to access the right data they need at the right time for the purpose or for the activity or the action that they have to complete at a given time. And again, expanding to other organizations that may potentially don't understand the complexity or the intrinsic complexity of products, configuration, management, and all this kind of stuff. So this is really where we are. We have been, as we just mentioned, almost for 30 years developing solutions for product development. We had a long history with different products that we have evolved over time. But really, the driver for the development we had and both the thinking, the development, and then the delivery of what we call 3D experience on all the associated suite of products has been really driven from this perspective.
You know, Stéphane, it was very interesting when you said taking control of data. It just reminded me of how important it is for people like us to take control of our lives. I mean, it's I can see a great parallel as to how this influx of engineering data in companies today is creating havoc for executives. And you also mentioned innovation is associated with close collaboration and communication. And there can be nothing farther than that, because if you really think about after the COVID, the world has actually gone further apart from each other. But that doesn't stop companies from doing what they do. They have to produce components, they have to market, they have to serve their customers. And I think it's an interesting point where innovation and engineering completely depends on how effectively teams collaborate and deliver.
It's really interesting, on to echo on this. So, of course, COVID has been a difficult time with some dramatic consequences in many countries that we could not and we should not diminish in any way, of course. But for businesses, actually, it has been an accelerator for being conscious about the importance of virtual. We prefer this to digital. We come back on this, but virtual space on IoT, connecting people in a different way that at the coffee machine in the morning or during the break. And I think it's interesting because recently we had a big user event that was hosted actually by one of our famous clients, Jaguar Land Rover in UK. So we were there in their facility in Gaydon, users from all places. Actually, I asked a question to my friend José Garcia Uriqui. José is the head of digital design engineering, and so basically driving the PLM transformation that we have been engaging with GLR for the last years. He has been actually working with many different solutions. He has been working with Generation 1 PLM for many years, 18 years before discovering the solution from Dassault Systèmes that he didn't know before joining this company. And I asked him, so José, what do you see in 3D experience and ENOVIA and the other products compares you to your past experience? And his answer was really aligned with what we just discussed. He said that what he saw with the solution he was using, that it was first and foremost a collaboration platform. And actually, he's using it himself to connect and interact, collaborate with his own team. And he said actually that the COVID time actually has been a big driver to reveal actually those capabilities, new possibilities to his team, and really help him to accelerate the change in mindset, which is as important as the change of solution, as we know, and get really people leveraging this capacity. So I think that's really illustrate well this transition.
Thank you for sharing your experiences that you had with JLR. Let me just take a little diversion and introduce to the audience today about a study that Lifecycle Insights did earlier this year. The objective of that study was to really understand where is PLM heading, and we will get back to this in our discussion today with Stéphane. And in that study, it was not that surprising that over a third of respondents cited supply chain procurement as their foremost challenge in product development. Again, it's not bringing new ideas or products, but it's really managing supply chains and procurement, right? And Stéphane, we all know COVID created another big problem. In addition to the health crisis, a problem where supply chains literally stalled. And that created problems all over, from the automotive industry all the way to consumer products and so on. So now, can you tell us how innovation platform is actually going to address some of the challenges that manufacturers faced, so that, God forbid, if there is a future event which is as catastrophic as COVID, manufacturers will be ready and they know what to do and how to do that?
I think it's a very good, actually, and it's a very good topic, because it will help me to illustrate what I was mentioning before related to the imperative, actually, to connect talents, to connect people from different organizations. And you mentioned COVID, but disruptive events will not be only about COVID or health threats. It can be about climate threats, and unfortunately, we are more likely to see more and more of them. Political threats and all those kind of things can create situations whereby actually your beautiful plans and beautiful existing setup can be challenged. So when you think about supply chain and procurement, again, those are today two siloed organizations. And the reality today is that this problem, which is a very complex problem, will not be able to be solved if you just ask those organizations to solve it. You will have to connect them together and with other people. So this is really a fantastic example for which connecting the dots between engineering, manufacturing, supply chain, procurement, and even costing actually will have actually the real impact. Like for many topics, we can say it for sustainability, I can say it here for procurement or supply chain, almost 60, 70%, whatever ratio you come with at the end, actually of the decisions that will impact those downstream activities actually are originated, created somehow back in the design and manufacturing engineering of those specific products and systems. So without connecting the organizations, without helping those upstream organizations to understand the impact of what they are doing and eventually evaluate alternative solutions upfront before you have committed physical capital and you have started to allocate OPEX to those activities, which are usually very expensive. So there's a huge opportunity actually to improve and to provide the flexibility. The earlier you go, the more flexibility you have to change. It's very hard to change when you are down to the production line, hoping or guessing if the part you have ordered is going to arrive on time. Whatever it is, an electronics part, and we know that they are very scarce right now, but also special material part that is critical to achieve the performance or whatever functions of your vehicle. So I think this is really the unique value of what we call virtual twin experience that can be applied to engineering, manufacturing, but also supply chain at all, on the ability to connect it to real-time past or current data So actually, you can play and you can really play what if scenario and understand the impact of what you are doing. Just to give a practical example again, today we're working with clients, manufacturers in the automotive industry to help them actually understand first and then play with, define scenarios, and ultimately take appropriate decisions to understand the impact of raw materials cost evolution. And we know that for some of them, there is a high volatility those days. We can have a dramatic impact actually on the actual cost of products you are making, especially cars, especially when you are at the volume that those industry have to fulfill, and for many of them, the low margin at which they are operating. So understanding, making the link between raw materials, your different product cars, so your portfolio, the different configuration, and understand the sensitivity of those end products to those fluctuations, understanding what are the alternative potential parts, suppliers from different locations eventually. And then actually validate from an engineering standpoint upfront the transition or the change from one part to the other, or one material to the other, to ultimately optimize the end cost and margin of your products. I think it's a kind of value on scenario that is now possible, connecting PLM, and should we still call it PLM? I don't know, but really to connect it to the real life. So it's really a trend that we see as well a lot, is connecting the virtual world to the real world somehow, and again, provide to the people inventing the new products or people producing those products to really understand what is going to happen and be able to take upfront the best decision.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Many companies actually took their supply chains for granted, and they've been so complacent over the decades, and they really found out to their shock that can't be. And I'm also happy you mentioned how they're no longer helpless. The virtual twin experience actually provides them with an opportunity to study the impact of their design and manufacturing engineering decisions all the way to their supply chains and even the end of life of their products. And I think that's fascinating, I should say, as an engineer and being in an engineering organization, to be able to actually study that and make decisions that will come maybe months or years later. For example, if you're talking about new production lines for airplanes or things like that, we are really talking years later. You can actually have the idea to foresee. And that's fascinating.
Thank you, Arvind and Stéphane. For our listeners, if you want to know more about the Lifecycle Insights study on PLM, head over to 3ds.com/cloud. Stéphane and Arvind will be joining us again to discuss the future of PLM, so stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights and stories from our guest experts.